how we bought 2 houses for the price of one and no one noticed. This behind me is 11 Quinton Street, Capalaba. It's a regular, tired, high-set brick house, and that's what people saw. The agent called it a renovator. And sure, it needed paint, it needed the floors polished, solid house, but needed a little bit of love. Everything about it screamed regular house. But it wasn't a regular house. Not even close. What they didn't see was that it was zoned medium density residential, which means that you can build another house, a smaller house, but another house nonetheless, behind it, and you don't even need a development approval to do so. The agent didn't know this, the vendor selling the property didn't know this, and no other buyers figured it out. We weren't really buying a house. We were buying 2 homes, one now and one later. And so here's what we're really looking at in terms of the numbers. We bought the house for $860,000. And even without doing anything to it, it rents for about $670 a week, which is more or less, I think, a little bit more than a 4% yield, which is a standard residential investment yield. But if you did decide to build the second house at the back, not today, maybe not even this year, this is what the numbers would look like. The existing house would be worth $790,000. And now think, it's lower than what the full price of the property is because you're losing the backyard. But still, $790,000. And the second house, and we're going to build a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, brand new house at the back, is worth $840,000. So all up, you've got $1.63 million in value, and now the build. If you were to undertake the build, it's going to cost you about $400,000. So that gets you down to $860,000 purchase price, $400,000 build. We're talking $1.26 million in total spend for $1.63 million in value. So that's a $370,000 uplift from a property that everybody walked straight past. And again, this is an $860,000 regular house that we've purchased here. Nothing outside of the ordinary, nothing wild. And again, this is optional. That second house doesn't need to happen today, but it's there when you want it. Now, over the 5 and 10 year horizon is when it really starts to separate. You know, not in the first year, but over 5 and 10 years, the gap and the amazingness of this investment really shines through. We're going to assume that the property market grows at 7% per year. And that's been about the average property growth rate. It may be higher, it might be lower. The purpose of this video is not to guess what percent the market's going up. It's to show what happens with one of these types of investments versus a regular investment over the long term. So if we're saying 7% per year of growth, after 5 years, house one, the one at the front, is now worth $1.11 million. House two is worth $1.18 million. And so total, $2.29 million is the value of those 2 houses after 5 years. Now, the build. The build is also going to go up in price, because there is a thing called inflation. And so the last 20 years, build prices have gone up about 5% a year on average, something along those lines. I'm going to make that assumption here. So the $400,000 build in 5 years becomes $510,000. And so the value of the property becomes $1.78 million. Now, if you're wondering how I got to this $1.78 million, what I did was I took the $2.29 million, which is the value of the two properties if they were separated, and I minused the cost of actually undertaking the build. And that build covers everything: council fees, all of that stuff, the actual build itself, driveways, everything you can consider. Now, what's really interesting is the regular house, also compounding at 7% per year, has gone from $860,000 to $1.4 million, which is amazing. I don't think anybody would be disappointed with that. However, the difference here between value is on our house, it's at $1.78 million, and the regular house, it's at 1.2. So we're talking a $580,000 gap. Now, when we purchased the property, the gap was $370,000, and now we're up to $580,000. So it's just growing and growing. And the reason for that is the property is compounding from its value, not from its purchase price. The regular house, it compounds from the purchase price because it's a house. It's always going to be a house. There's nothing more to it. But one of these types of properties, because it's compounding from the actual combined value of those two properties together, it's a higher amount. And so that higher amount compounds and gives you a faster growth rate. Well, not a higher percentage growth rate, but a dollar growth rate is much higher, which is then seen even clearer when we look at 10 years later. Again, this is based off 7% a year growth. House 1 is now worth $1.55 million. House 2 is worth $1.65 million. And the combined value of these properties is now $3.2 million. And our build cost will also increase. That's up to $650,000. And so if we take the value, $3.2 million, off the build price of $650,000, we're at a value of $2.55 million. Now, compare that to our regular house here, which is $1.69 million. Again, amazing result to go from $860,000 to $1.69 in 10 years. But our gap, the difference has now gone from $370,000 on purchase to $580,000 5 years later to $860,000 after 10 years. It's pretty incredible. Now, I know what you might be thinking. I'm not a developer. I don't want a complicated project. Totally fair. But here's the thing. With a half-decent project manager, this isn't much harder than building a granny flat, and you're up for maybe $25,000 in fees for that project manager to get it done. If you build in 5 years' time, or later than that, you've built enough equity in the property that the bank will lend you the money to do the build. And if you don't want to build, that's fine. You can sit on it, and when you're ready, you can sell it to a developer later and still walk away with a lot more money in this option than the regular house. And the reason for that is later down the path, because the property has been growing at the value of the two houses rather than just the one, that value to a developer has increased significantly. And now it's probably a little bit too complicated, and I've run out of boardroom space to explain this, but I estimate that it'd probably be $200,000 ahead after 5 years and likely over $300,000 ahead after 10. And that's if you just held it as a regular residential house and then sold it to a developer down the line. But really, it's not that hard to build it. And I would much prefer to see people build them eventually and make that money themselves than to let the developer make that money. But hey, either way. So look, I'll close with this. You could buy a regular house for your next investment, and in 10 years, it'll still be just a house. Or you can buy something like this and unlock hundreds of $1,000s in extra value just by seeing what others don't. And while these properties aren't just sitting there everywhere to be bought, they're not super rare. They're just invisible to most people. And the way I think is if you're going to spend the same money either way, both of these properties are going to be $860,000, why not buy the one that sets you up for something more? We find properties like this every week. Everybody seems to miss them or misunderstand them. And I want to see more people take advantage of it, more regular investors buy these types of properties and really set themselves up. So my final question to you, you now know what's out there. Do you want in?